62nd chapter of the book Tehillim, Parak Samach Bet. We continue with stories of the life of David. Lamnatzeach al Yidutun Mizmor LeDavid. For the leader of Yidutun, a psalm of David. We talked about this. It's probably some sort of a musical instrument, this Yidutun, although we don't know exactly what it is. The Midrash tries to work off the word, how it's kind of related to the word dot for laws or religion, that it's somehow related to laws. But let's see what it says. Ach el Elohim dumia nafshi mimenu yeshuati. My soul waits quietly, silently for God. My deliverance comes from him. In so many chapters, David shouted and screamed and begged and asked and requested in all sorts of different ways for God to come to his help with enemies all around as he faced them very often. And here he says that his soul sits there sort of quietly, ready for God to deliver him. Ahu tsuri vishuati, miskabi lo emot rabba. He is my rock and deliverance, my refuge or my haven. I shall never be shaken. We know that people religiously are shaken all the time. Where's God? What's going on? This idea in Jewish life, Hester Panim, which comes from the end of the book of Shemot, that God will hide his face from the Jewish people, and we will suffer as a result, and the difficulties that happen in life. But David here says, I am fully confident. I know it's going to happen. There are times it doesn't seem that way, but I know that I will be, that I will, God will forgive me, and thus I will not be shaken. Ad ana tehot tetu al ish tiratzchu chulchem kikir natui gader hadchuya. How long will all of you attack man, crush him as though he were a leaning wall, a tottering fence? It's presumably here, and well, we don't know it. We have here on a number of times, we already saw it once, where David talks about a tzur, a rock, crags. We know that in other chapters, we'll see the next chapter again, David, it's identified specifically that David is running away from Shaul, and we know that we've had other chapters of that sort, and he's hiding in caves, and he's hiding amongst the rocks in the desert and in the Judean hills. And so presumably here, that's what's happening to him as well. And his enemies might see him as a leaning wall, as something that's on its way falling down, that all they have to do is, do that last push and he will be gone and he will be down. But David knows that that's not the case. He has full protection, belief, and faith in God that will not happen. We're in verse 5. Mis'eto ya'atsu lehadiach yirtzu chaza befiv yivarechu uvekirbam yikalalu sela. They lay plans to topple him from his rank. They delight in falsehood. They bless with their mouths, while inwardly they curse. And so here again, right, it doesn't make sense that these are his former associates, former comrades, perhaps some of the people that he commanded in the past. But now the story has changed. He's gone from son-in-law to the king and general, and these official generals, Avner, cousin of Shaul's, but he's up there, high in the military rank. But now all of a sudden there's a new story that's told where David is an enemy, where he is a rebel, where he's somebody. And so they blessed him in the past, but now under their breath, they're cursing him. They've been his comrades, they've been his associates, they've been perhaps even his soldiers, but now they delight in the falsehood that he is an enemy. Ach lelohim domi nafshi ki mimenu tikvati. But me, truly me, I wait quietly for God, for my hope comes from God. And coming back to something that we saw earlier, where he says, Ahu in verse 7, Suri vishuati miskabi, lo emoti is my rock and deliverance, my refuge, I will not be shaken. So David, again, here he believes, he understands. And again, if we think about David, and I've talked about this in the past, and this is some of his life, everything seems fine. He's out in the fields, and Shmuel comes and anoints him with oil, and everything seems great. He becomes the musician, he kills Goliath, he's son-in-laws of the king, everything is moving up. And then all of a sudden, as we described the other chapter where the king's men were around him, and we saw this back in the book of Shmuel, he has to be lowered out of the window by his wife, Michal, daughter of the king. And things are looking downward. He's running away. He feigns insanity to join the Plishtim. He hides in the desert. he's reported on. Things look a little better, but then he's attacked again. So he's got a lot of this in his life and a downfall. But the one thing that it seems hard to believe is that David gives up full hope in God. He seems charmed. Things seem to generally work out for him in a very amazing way. His quick rise, even if there's a fairly steep fall right away after that. But he knows that the prophet Shmuel has come, poured the anointing oil on him, and said he's going to be the next king of Israel. So he has great reasons to have full faith in God, unless he thinks that Shmuel HaNavi was lying to him. And so David has reasons to not really be that concerned and not really be that worried. Continuing in verse 8, Pasuk Chet, Al Elohim Yishiu Chvodi Tzur Uzi Machsi Belohim. I rely on God, my deliverance and glory, my rock of strength. In God is my refuge. So there we see again the third time where we have it, this idea of the tzur, the rock, over and over again, and just thus the thought that he's in the caves, he's near the caves, he's in the desert, etc., etc. Bitchuvo b'chol eit am shivchu lefanav levavchem Elohim machaseh lanu sela. Trusted him in all times, people. Pour out your hearts before him. God is our refuge. Sela, again, the end of a note of a piece of the verse of Tehillim, or makes sense there as well, forever, hence the difficulty of understanding. So here he's gone from his own personal, I trust in God, I can quietly, I can wait, I know it's going to happen to me, I'm sitting here in the rock, to now perhaps expressing it at that time to the men who had joined him, the 400 men, later 600 men who had joined him, who were on his side when he's running away from Shaul. Perhaps there, as we saw in these stories, the men were more bloodthirsty. They were ready to kill Shaul, where David said, I would never kill the anointed one of God. And so perhaps he's calming them down from the edge, from doing something that he believes would be unforgiven. So trust in him. Or this is long after these events happen, and he's speaking to a crowd and trying to keep them faithful and keep them believing in God. Continuing verse 10, Pasuk Yud, Ach hevel b'nei adam kazav b'nei ish b'moznayim la'alot hema mehevel yachad. Men are a mere breath, mortals, illusion. They're placed on a scale together. They weigh even less than a breath. And so here, right, you think these people, they have so much power, they're coming after you, we have to be worried, we have to be scared. Men are hevel. They're a breath. They're vanity. They are fleeting. They're something that are here today with great plans and great plots and worries for you. They'll be gone tomorrow. Don't worry about it. Don't stress about it. We know I am taking refuge. I trust and I can wait patiently because I know that God has promised me, and I know that God will help me in the future. He says, as opposed to humans, it's 1 second. Al tivtechu ba'oshek u'bagazel al te balu chayil ki anuv al tashitu le. Don't trust in violence or false hopes and robbery. If force bears fruit, don't pay attention to it, right? So it works. This is momentary. This is something that can work, that can help. In a sense, help, right? You rob, you cheat, and it helps you, but eventually it catches up on you. You will be caught. You will be punished. It's not something that can be long lasting. Similar to man. Man is something that humanity doesn't live forever. Humanity is just a breath, just a moment in God's eye until the person is dead, until the person's gone to the next world. And trust in God, because these momentary things that are being done, they're not going to last. It's not something that we can rely upon for the long run. And so he says, don't trust them. Don't listen to them. Yes, it seems to have worked out for a moment for these people with their lying and their cheating and their stealing and their attacking of me and their belief in falsehood, but it's not. And here we have perhaps the most well-known or most interesting and consequential verse in this chapter. Achat diber Elohim, shtaim zu shamati, ki oz le'Elohim. God spoke one thing, 2 things I heard. That might belongs to God. God, right? God can say one thing, but it can mean multiple things. And this verse is important, leaving the straight understanding of the verse, because it has an understanding. It's sort of a description of what the rabbis understand as being what happened at Sinai. We know there are 2 versions of the Aseret HaDibrot, of the 10 utterances in the Torah, one in Shemot and one in Devarim, and they have some differences. The most well-known differences: Shamor in one, to protect, observe the Shabbat, and the other one, Zachor, to remember the Shabbat. We have, right, and other ones, but that's the other differences, slight differences here and there. That's the most well-known difference. Well, God only spoke the one. How can that be? So the rabbis say God speaks a word, but it contains multiple meanings. It's sort of God can say both things at once. We can't comprehend both at once. But the two versions of the 10 utterances of the Aseret HaDibrot contain both those things. Rabbis understand this is also one of the reasons why we have, in a sense, commentary on the Torah. The Torah says, right, there's a word that's written, but it can have multiple meanings. It can have multiple ways of understanding it based upon midrash or remez, an allusion, or looking at different words in different places. And so part of the entire idea of explaining the Torah and looking for multiple meanings, I'm not saying that it only comes, but this verse certainly references this idea that God says one thing, but two things can be heard from it. It can have multiple lessons and multiple meanings at the same time. Continuing the last verse, Ulecha Adonai Chased, ki ata tishalem leish k'maasehu. And right, kindness or faithfulness is yours, God. You reward each man according to his deeds. Right? You repay a man for what they deserve. And so here David is saying, presumably to his people, seems at times that things may be a little confusing. Achad diber Elohim shtaim zu shamati. What do you mean, David? You said that you're going to be king, and here are these men that want to kill you, and let's take care of them. Let's kill them. Let's kill the king. And David says, we heard God said one thing, I'm going to be king, but we hear Shtaya, to explain it in this way, Shtaim zu shamati, I heard two different ways. One way I can become king is through violence. Another way I can become king is through peace and through mercy. And I'm going to pick that latter one. And God is going to repay to the person what they deserve. So I'm not going to attempt to be violent. I'm not going to kill Shaul. I'm not going to kill my predecessor, my father-in-law, because I know the difficulties that he has in his life, mental issues and different things, difficulties that Shaul had in the second half of his life. And so David says here, don't do that. We will wait. We will be quiet. We can trust in God. We can be patient. We know God will have our side. And ultimately, if we do so, then we will get the ultimate chesed. We will get the kindness or the equity, the justice that should be given to us for showing our mercy, for showing our kindness, and waiting for God rather than actively, in this case, going out and getting rid of these people who have judged us the wrong way and see that we will be easy to knock off. But we, of course, know that's not the case, because we will continue to rely upon God.